Blood dripped from my head as shattered glass crunched under my feet in my brother Marcus's backyard. 100 party guests stared in horror while my mother Sarah clutched the broken champagne bottleneck. My father Robert towered over me, demanding I sign over my downtown Denver condo. Marcus smirked from the patio doorway. I touched the warm blood trickling down my face and realized 28 years of being the family scapegoat had led to this moment of absolute betrayal. 6 months before that terrible night, I sat in my cramped studio apartment when my phone rang. The caller introduced himself as Bradley Morrison, an estate attorney, handling my paternal grandmother, Eleanor's affairs. My hands trembled as he explained that Eleanor had passed away 3 days earlier, leaving her entire estate to me. Not to the family, not to Marcus the golden child who could do no wrong. To me, Frankie the daughter my parents treated like an unwanted guest in my own home. The inheritance took my breath away, a $660,000 luxury condo in downtown Denver, $340,000 in carefully selected stocks, $180,000 in bonds, over $1 million in total, more money than I'd ever imagined possessing. Morrison asked me to come to his office the next morning. I spent that night staring at my ceiling, remembering Grandma Eleanor. She was the only family member who ever saw me as more than a disappointment. While my parents fawned over Marcus, Eleanor would take me aside during family gatherings, pressing $20 bills into my palm and whispering that I was stronger than I knew. At Morrison's office, I learned the depth of Eleanor's understanding. Along with the will, she'd left a letter addressed to me. My eyes burned with tears as I read her elegant handwriting. My dearest Frankie, I've watched your struggle for years, documenting every slight, every cruelty your parents inflicted while elevating Marcus at your expense. I kept detailed records of how they gave him your college fund for his restaurant scheme, how they made you work 3 jobs to pay for your education while funding his every failure. You survived what would have broken others. This inheritance is your freedom. Use it wisely and never let them dim your light again. Attached to the letter were pages of notes in Eleanor's hand, dates and incidents I'd half forgotten. The Christmas when I was 12 and my parents gave Marcus a new computer while handing me Marcus's old broken laptop. The time they missed my high school graduation to attend Marcus's traffic court hearing. The birthday dinner where they made me pay for everyone's meal because Marcus had cash flow issues. Morrison explained that Eleanor had been planning this for years. She'd met with him monthly to ensure the will was ironclad, specifically designed to prevent challenges. She'd even included a no-contest clause. Anyone who challenged the will would forfeit any future claim to any part of her estate. I moved into the condo 2 weeks later. The building had 24-hour security, a doorman, and stunning views of the Rocky Mountains. My new home had floor-to-ceiling windows, gleaming hardwood floors, and a kitchen with appliances worth more than my car. For the first time in my life, I had a sanctuary where my family couldn't reach me. I made a calculated decision to keep most of the inheritance secret. When my parents inevitably asked about Eleanor's estate, I mentioned only that she'd left me her condo. Let them think it was some modest 1-bedroom. I transferred the stocks and bonds to a new investment account they knew nothing about. My phone started ringing within hours of the will being filed. 17 missed calls from my mother, 12 from my father, 23 from Marcus. I let them all go to voicemail, savoring the silence of my new home. The first voicemail from my mother was predictable. Frankie, there must be some mistake. Marcus was supposed to inherit Grandma's estate. Call me immediately. The entitlement in her voice made my skin crawl. Marcus's messages grew increasingly aggressive. That inheritance belongs to the family, not just you. As if the family had ever included me in anything worth having. I changed my phone number and gave it only to my employer and closest friends. For 3 blissful months, I lived in peace. I advanced in my career as a financial analyst, finally able to focus without the constant drama. I joined a gym in my building. I bought furniture that wasn't from thrift stores. I even started therapy to process 28 years of emotional abuse. But I should have known the peace wouldn't last. My family had lost their favorite punching bag, and they wouldn't accept that without a fight. The doorman called up on a Thursday evening 3 months after I'd moved in. "Ms. Frankie, there's a Marcus here claiming to be your brother. Should I send him up?" My stomach clenched. I'd specifically told building security not to let my family in, but Marcus must have charmed his way past the front desk. Reluctantly, I agreed to 5 minutes. Marcus strutted into my condo with the same arrogant swagger he'd perfected in high school. His eyes swept over my new furniture, the expansive view, the obvious luxury. I saw the exact moment his entitlement transformed into rage. "So this is where you've been hiding," he said, dropping onto my cream-colored couch without invitation. "Nice place for someone who cried about being broke last Christmas." "What do you want, Marcus?" His practiced smile faltered. "I need your help. I've got a situation." The story tumbled out in pieces. Marcus had invested everything in a cryptocurrency scheme, convincing investors he had insider knowledge about the next Bitcoin. He'd promised 400% returns in 6 months. Instead, he'd lost everything when his insider disappeared with the money. "How much?" I asked, already knowing I wouldn't like the answer. 450,000. He had the audacity to shrug like it was pocket change. "But here's the thing. Mom and Dad already helped with some of it." My blood ran cold. "What does that mean?" Marcus examined his manicured nails. "They took out a mortgage on the house, covered about 300,000, but I still need another 400 to pay back the rest of the investors. Some of them are getting aggressive." "You convinced our parents to mortgage their house for your gambling." "It wasn't gambling." His mask slipped completely. "It was an investment opportunity, just like the restaurant, the food truck business, the app development company. Sometimes businesses fail, Frankie. Not that you'd understand sitting pretty in Grandma's condo." The audacity stole my breath. The restaurant had cost $60,000, my entire college fund. The food truck business ate another $40,000 from our parents' retirement. The app development company consumed $30,000 more. And now this. "Get out," I said quietly. "Excuse me." "Get out of my home." Marcus stood, his face contorting with fury. "You're really going to let Mom and Dad lose their house because you're petty about the past? This condo is worth more than enough. Sell it and save your family." "The family that gave you my college fund, that made me work 3 jobs while you partied through 4 different colleges, that family." "You always were selfish," he spat. "Grandma Eleanor was senile when she changed her will. You probably manipulated her." "Security is on their way up," I lied, reaching for my phone. Marcus stormed toward the door, pausing for one last threat. "You're going to regret this, Frankie. When Mom and Dad are homeless because of your selfishness, everyone will know what kind of person you really are." After he left, I called a security company. By the next morning, I had cameras installed throughout my condo and in the hallway. The security firm recommended upgrading my door locks and adding a panic button connected directly to their monitoring center. I also called Bradley Morrison to inform him about Marcus's visit and threats. He wasn't surprised. "Eleanor warned me this might happen," he said. "She knew Marcus would burn through money and come looking for more. Document everything, Frankie. Every interaction, every threat. We might need it." That night, I lay awake thinking about the pattern. Marcus would create a crisis and everyone would scramble to fix it. He never faced consequences, never learned from mistakes. Our parents enabled him while demanding I be grateful for scraps. But not anymore. I'd broken free from the cycle and no amount of manipulation would drag me back. 2 weeks after Marcus's visit, a formal invitation arrived by certified mail. My mother's pristine handwriting requested my presence at a family dinner the following Saturday. The formality should have been my first warning. I debated ignoring it, but curiosity won. What new scheme had they concocted? Arriving at my childhood home felt like entering enemy territory. The two-story colonial looked the same, but knowledge of the new mortgage made it feel fragile, like a house of cards waiting to collapse. My mother answered the door wearing her best pearls, the ones she saved for impressing important people. "Frankie, so good of you to come." Her smile could have frozen hell. The dining room held an ambush disguised as dinner. My parents sat on one side of the table, Marcus on the other, and at the head sat a man in an expensive suit. "This is Dennis Crawford," my father announced. "He's been our family attorney for 15 years. Crawford stood to shake my hand, his palm damp with nervous sweat. Papers spread across the table like a trap, waiting to spring. Please sit," my mother said, gesturing to the empty chair, the same chair I'd occupied through countless family dinners where they discussed Marcus's achievements while I ate in silence. I remained standing. "What is this?" Crawford cleared his throat. "Your family has concerns about Eleanor Morrison's estate disposition. They've retained me to explore legal options." "Explore away," I said. "The will is ironclad." "Perhaps." Crawford shuffled papers with practiced theatricality, "but we've discovered some interesting documents." He produced 3 sheets, sliding them across the polished wood. My signature appeared at the bottom of each page, except I'd never seen these documents before. Family financial agreements," Crawford explained, "signed by all family members 5 years ago, stating that any inheritance received by one family member would be shared equally among all immediate family members." I photographed each page with my phone before they could object. The signatures were good forgeries, but forgeries nonetheless. The formation of my F was wrong, and they used my maiden name even though I'd been briefly married 5 years ago. "I've never seen these before," I said calmly, "and 5 years ago I was Frankie Patterson, not Frankie Williams. Whoever forged these forgot I was married then." Crawford's face flushed. "These are legitimate documents found in your parents' safety deposit box." "Then you won't mind if I have them authenticated by a forensic document examiner." My mother's mask cracked. "How dare you accuse us of forgery? We're your family." Family doesn't forge signatures," I replied. "Family doesn't steal college funds. Family doesn't demand I sell my home to pay for Marcus's mistakes." My father slammed his palm on the table. "Enough. You will sign this quitclaim deed transferring the condo to family ownership, or we will challenge the will based on undue influence." "Eleanor was of sound mind," I said. "Her attorney can verify that." "She was a bitter old woman who poisoned you against us," Sarah spat. "We're your parents. We deserve that inheritance more than you do." I documented their words with my phone's recording app, making sure they saw me do it. "Is that your legal argument, that you deserve my inheritance?" Crawford tried to regain control. "Let's all calm down. Frankie, your family is prepared to offer you a generous settlement. Sign the condo over and they'll give you $50,000 from its sale." "The condo is worth over $600,000. "Alleged worth," Crawford corrected. "Markets fluctuate, and legal battles are expensive for everyone." I gathered my purse, making sure my phone was still recording. "This meeting is over. Any future communication goes through my attorney." "You don't have an attorney," Marcus sneered. "Bradley Morrison represents the estate and has agreed to represent me personally in any challenges." I moved toward the door. "And Dennis, you might want to research the penalties for submitting forged documents to the court. I believe it's called fraud upon the court, and it can result in disbarment." Crawford's face went white. My parents erupted in shouting, but I walked out, their voices fading as I reached my car. In the driveway, I called Morrison immediately. He listened to my account with grim satisfaction. "Eleanor predicted this exact scenario," he said. "She left video depositions with the court sealed unless someone challenges the will. In them, she details your family's treatment of you and her reasons for the inheritance distribution. She also had a psychiatric evaluation done 6 months before she died, confirming her mental capacity. She really thought of everything. Well, she loved you very much, Frankie, and she knew exactly who your family was. 2 nights after the dinner ambush, I worked late at the office finishing quarterly reports. My phone buzzed with an alert from my security system, motion detected in my condo. My blood froze. I pulled up the camera feed and watched Marcus moving through my bedroom. He wore gloves and carried a small plastic bag. I called 911 while racing to my car. Someone's broken into my condo. I have them on camera. Please hurry. The 15-minute drive felt like hours. I watched on my phone as Marcus opened drawers, clearly searching for something. Then he pulled items from his bag and began planting them throughout my room. 2 police cars waited when I arrived. The officers accompanied me upstairs where we found Marcus still in my bedroom. The shock on his face when we entered was almost comical. Frankie. He tried for innocent confusion. I was worried about you. You weren't answering your phone. Step away from the dresser, sir, Officer Janet Rodriguez commanded. The items Marcus had been planting were clear bags of white powder. Cocaine, the field test later confirmed. Enough to charge me with possession with intent to distribute. Check his phone, I told the officers. He was on a call. My cameras have audio. They retrieved Marcus's phone, finding a recent call to someone named Vince. Officer Rodriguez played the recording from my security system. Marcus's voice came through clearly. Once she's arrested for drug possession, the inheritance challenge becomes easier. Criminal beneficiaries can be removed from wills. They arrested Marcus for breaking and entering possession of narcotics and attempted framing. As they led him away in handcuffs, he screamed that I'd set him up, that the drugs were mine, that our parents would destroy me. Detective Patricia Williams arrived to take my statement. She was a tall black woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. This isn't Marcus Williams's first arrest, she informed me after running his record. 2 arrests for check fraud, 1 for credit card theft. All charges dropped when restitution was paid. I'm guessing your parents have been cleaning up his messes for years. You have no idea, I said. I need you to understand something, Detective Williams said seriously. Your brother owes money to Vincent Torino. Know that name? I shook my head. Bookmaker, loan shark, not someone you want to owe $400,000. Your brother's desperate, and desperate people do dangerous things. She helped me file for an emergency restraining order against my entire immediate family. The judge granted it, based on the break-in, the forged documents, and the documented threats. Morrison recommended a security expert named Derek Coleman, a former military police officer who now provided personal protection. He assessed my condo and suggested additional measures. The building security is good, but not perfect, Derek explained. Marcus talked his way past them once. He could do it again or send someone else. We upgraded everything. New locks that couldn't be picked, security film on the windows, a safe room protocol if someone breached the outer defenses. Derek also assigned one of his team members to do random check-ins. That night, I sat in my secured condo thinking about how quickly my life had changed. 6 months ago, I was struggling to pay rent forgotten by my family, except when they needed someone to blame. Now I had wealth they wanted and protection they'd made necessary. My phone rang with an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. You ruined my life. Marcus's voice was hoarse, calling from jail. They're talking about prison time. Actual prison. Do you have any idea what you've done? You broke into my home and tried to frame me for drug possession. I was trying to save our family. Mom and Dad are going to lose everything because of you. No, Marcus. They're going to lose everything because of you. Your schemes, your debts, your choices. I'm just refusing to be your safety net anymore. Torino's gonna come after me, after all of us. Is that what you want? What I want is to be left alone. You created this mess. Figure out how to fix it without destroying my life. He cursed me before the line cut off. I blocked the number and poured myself a glass of wine from a bottle that cost more than I used to spend on groceries in a week. Outside my windows, Denver glittered with promise. Somewhere in that city, my family was plotting their next move. But for tonight, I was safe in my tower, protected by money walls and the law. The irony wasn't lost on me. Eleanor's inheritance hadn't just given me wealth. It had given me the resources to finally fight back against the people who were supposed to love me most. 3 weeks of blessed peace followed Marcus's arrest. I threw myself into work earning praise for a portfolio optimization that saved our clients $2 million. My boss, Catherine Chen, mentioned a senior analyst position opening soon. For the first time, I could focus on my career without family drama derailing everything. Then my cousin Amy called. Amy was 16, my Aunt Patricia's daughter, and one of the few relatives who treated me like a human being. Her name on my phone made my chest tighten. Frankie. Her voice was thick with tears. I'm sorry to call. I know you don't want to hear from family. What's wrong, sweetie? Everything's falling apart. Uncle Robert and Aunt Sarah might lose their house. Marcus is in jail. Everyone's fighting. My mom says the family is destroyed. I closed my eyes. Amy didn't deserve to be caught in this war. That's not your fault or your problem to fix. But it affects everyone. My dad says if Uncle Robert goes to prison for bank stuff, it could ruin his business because they're partners. She hiccuped through her tears. Marcus's 30th birthday is next week. Aunt Sarah is throwing a party even though he's in jail. She says if you come and make peace, maybe everything can be fixed. Amy, I have a restraining order against them. Mom said Aunt Sarah knows. She promises they just want to talk, to apologize. She says the whole family will be there to witness it, so you'll feel safe. Warning bells clanged in my head. Did your mom tell you to call me? A telling pause. She's here. Do you want to talk to her? Before I could refuse, my Aunt Patricia's voice filled my ear. Frankie, honey, I know you've been hurt, but this family is tearing itself apart. Your parents are devastated about what Marcus did. They want to make amends. By having their teenage daughter manipulate me. That's not fair. Amy's genuinely upset. She loves this family dysfunction and all. Patricia sighed dramatically. Look, I know Sarah and Robert haven't been perfect parents, but they're facing bankruptcy and possibly prison. Can't you find it in your heart to hear them out? At a party that violates the restraining order. Sarah checked with a lawyer. If you voluntarily attend a family gathering, it's considered consensual contact. Please, Frankie, just 20 minutes. Show Amy that families can forgive. I thought about Amy crying about the chaos rippling through extended family, about my grandmother's hope that cycles could be broken. 20 minutes, I heard myself say, but I'm bringing someone with me. Of course, bring whoever makes you feel safe. Saturday at 2 o'clock. It'll mean the world to Amy. After hanging up, I immediately called Morrison. He strongly advised against going. This has setup written all over it, he warned. Your aunt calling instead of your parents, using your young cousin, classic manipulation. I know, but if I don't go, they'll tell the entire extended family I'm the villain who wouldn't even try to reconcile. Morrison sighed. If you insist on going, take precautions. Document everything. Have someone waiting outside, and leave the second anything feels wrong. I called my best friend Jessica Martinez, a divorce attorney who'd seen enough family dysfunction to recognize danger. She agreed to accompany me and wait in the car. You sure about this? She asked. These people assaulted you. They were never violent before that night, I said, trying to convince myself. Maybe Marcus's arrest shocked some sense into them. Jessica's expression said she doubted it, but she agreed to be my backup. We planned our strategy like a military operation. Park on the street for easy escape. Keep my keys in hand. Record everything on my phone. Stay near exits. Leave at the first sign of trouble. Saturday arrived gray and drizzly, matching my mood. I dressed professionally in a blazer and slacks armor against whatever waited. Jessica drove while I fought nausea. 20 minutes, she reminded me as we parked outside my childhood home. I'll be watching the door. If you're not out in 21 minutes, I'm calling the police. Cars lined the street and driveway. Through the windows, I saw dozens of people milling around. This wasn't a small family gathering. This was an event. My stomach dropped, but Amy had already spotted me through the window. She ran out, tears streaming down her face. You came. Thank you, thank you. She hugged me desperately. Everyone's here, all the aunts and uncles and cousins, even Dad's business partners. Mom said Aunt Sarah wanted everyone to witness the apology. Witness. The word sent ice through my veins, but Amy was pulling me toward the door, and turning back now would devastate her. I touched my phone in my pocket, ensuring it was recording. Jessica gave me a thumbs up from the car. Time to face whatever my family had planned. The moment I stepped inside, I knew I'd made a terrible mistake. The house overflowed with people far more than just family. I recognized neighbors, my father's co-workers from the bank, my mother's colleagues from Wellington Preparatory Academy, even kids I'd gone to high school with, who were now friends with Marcus. Over 100 pairs of eyes turned to stare as Amy led me through the foyer. Conversations died like dominoes falling. The air crackled with an orchestrated tension that made my skin crawl. My parents materialized from the crowd, positioning themselves to block any retreat. My mother wore the black dress she saved for funerals and other occasions requiring maximum gravitas. My father had his stern bank manager face locked in place. Everyone. Sarah's voice carried the commanding tone she used on misbehaving students. Our daughter Frankie has finally come home to make things right. Applause scattered through the crowd, uncomfortable and forced. I spotted Marcus's friends from his failed restaurant venture, his CrossFit buddies, 3 of his ex-girlfriends who somehow remained in his orbit, all watching me like I was a circus act. That's not why I'm here, I said, but Sarah had already seized my arm, her manicured nails digging in as she steered me toward the living room center. A small table waited there like a stage prop. On it sat a single document and an expensive fountain pen. Even from 10 feet away, I recognized the quit-claim deed for my condo. Friends, family, colleagues. Robert's banker voice boomed as he addressed the crowd. You all know our family has faced challenges recently, misunderstandings between siblings, financial difficulties, but today we're here to witness reconciliation. Today, Frankie will prove family means more than money. The crowd murmured approval. Someone started recording with their phone, then another. Soon, a dozen cameras pointed at me like weapons. I'm not signing anything, I said, clearly pitching my voice to Carrie. I came because Amy asked me to, because I was told you wanted to apologize. Sarah's grip tightened painfully. Don't be dramatic, Frankie. You've made your point. You've punished us enough. Your brother sits in jail because of your vindictiveness. Your father faces federal investigation, all because you refused to share Grandma Eleanor's gift with your family. Marcus is in jail because he broke into my home and planted drugs, I announced to the room. Any federal investigation stems from financial crimes that have nothing to do with me. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Sarah's colleagues exchanged shocked looks, but my parents had anticipated this. She's always been troubled, Sarah told the audience with practiced sorrow. Jealous of her brother's success, making wild accusations. We've tried to help her, but she refuses to see reality. The reality where you mortgaged your house for Marcus's cryptocurrency scheme. I pulled out my phone. Should I play the recording where you admitted to forging documents, or the security footage of Marcus planting cocaine in my bedroom? Robert stepped forward. Enough. You will sign this deed, or every person here will know you for the selfish, ungrateful child you've always been. We gave you life. We raised you. We deserve what our mother left behind. Your mother left it to me, I said, specifically to me, with detailed notes about why. The crowd grew restless. This wasn't the smooth reconciliation they'd been promised. Some edged toward the exits. Others leaned in sensing drama. "Sign it!" Sarah shrieked, abandoning all pretense of dignity. "Sign it now, you vicious little bitch!" I wrenched free from her grip and turned toward the door. "I'm leaving. Don't contact me again." That's when I felt the explosion against my skull. Time fractured. 1 second, I was walking away. The next, pain bloomed across my head like fireworks. The champagne bottle Sarah swung connected just above my right eye, shattering on impact. I collapsed to my knees. Warm liquid streamed down my face, metallic in my mouth. Blood. So much blood. Glass shards bit into my scalp as I tried to focus through the shocking pain. Screams erupted. Through blurred vision, I saw party guests scrambling backward, phones still recording. Sarah stood over me, gripping the bottle's neck like a weapon, her face contorted with rage I'd never seen before. "You destroyed this family," she screamed. "You poisoned Marcus against us. You turned Robert's bank against him, you selfish monster." I tried to crawl away, but dizziness made the world tilt. Blood dripped onto my mother's cream carpet, each drop a small rebellion. Marcus's laughter cut through the chaos. He stood in the archway out on bail, watching his mother attack me with undisguised glee. "Guess you should have signed when you had the chance, sis." Someone call 911. A woman's voice pierced through the noise, one of Sarah's colleagues horrified by what she was witnessing. Robert made no move to help me. Instead, he addressed the crowd like this was all perfectly reasonable. "You all saw her provoke Sarah, saw her refuse to help her family. Whatever happens, she brought on herself." Jessica burst through the front door, having heard the screaming. "Oh my God, Frankie!" She dropped beside me, pressing tissues from her purse against my head wound. "I'm calling an ambulance." No ambulance," Sarah commanded. "She's being dramatic. It's barely a scratch." But the blood pooling on her carpet suggested otherwise, and the guests weren't buying the act anymore. George Henderson, who owned several downtown businesses, had his phone out recording everything while barking at someone to bring towels. "This is attempted murder," Henderson announced loudly. "I'm sending this video to the police right now. Gemo." Sarah finally seemed to realize what she'd done. The bottleneck fell from her hand. "I didn't mean..." She made me so angry. "We need to get you out of here," Jessica whispered urgently. "Can you walk?" With her help, I staggered to my feet. The room spun sickeningly, but rage kept me upright. I looked directly at the cameras still recording. "You all witnessed this," I managed through gritted teeth. "My mother assaulted me because I wouldn't give her my inheritance. Remember that when they try to spin the story later." "Drama queen," Marcus called out, but his voice lacked conviction. Several guests were already on phones with 911 despite my parents' protests. Jessica half carried me toward the door. Behind us, Sarah was screeching about family loyalty, while Robert tried to convince people to delete their videos. Amy sobbed in the corner, her sweet 16 birthday party dreams crashing around her. As we reached Jessica's car, I heard sirens in the distance. Multiple sirens. The neighbors must have called too. "Be hospital," Jessica said firmly, speeding away from my childhood home. "Then police. Then we bury these people legally." Blood soaked through the tissues. Each heartbeat sent lightning through my skull, but underneath the pain, a strange calm settled over me. They'd finally shown their true faces, not just to me, but to everyone. There was no going back now. They'd drawn blood in front of witnesses. And I was done being their victim. The emergency room at Denver General bloomed into chaos the moment Jessica half carried me through the sliding doors. Blood had soaked through 3 dish towels, and my vision kept fracturing into prismatic patterns. Head trauma," Jessica shouted. "She was attacked." Medical staff surrounded me instantly. Someone guided me to a wheelchair while another pressed fresh gauze to my head. The triage nurse's eyes widened when she saw the wound. "What happened?" "My mother hit me with a champagne bottle," I managed, "at a party, over 100 witnesses. The nurse's professional mask slipped for just a second. Your mother did this. They rushed me back immediately. Dr. Kenneth Matthews, according to his badge, took charge. He was young, maybe early 30s, with gentle hands that carefully examined the gash. You're going to need stitches, he said. But first, we need a CT scan to check for skull fracture or brain bleeding. How hard did the impact feel? Like my head exploded. The bottle shattered. His jaw tightened. Any loss of consciousness, nausea. No blackout, some dizziness and nausea. Good signs, but we're still doing full imaging. He turned to a nurse. Get me a full trauma panel and prep for suturing and call security. If someone's mother did this, we might need protection. As they wheeled me to radiology, Jessica squeezed my hand. I called Morrison. He's sending his investigator to the party before people disperse. And I saved Henderson's contact. He got the whole thing on video. The CT scan was a blur of mechanical whirring. I lay still thinking about the shock on my mother's colleagues' faces. Sarah had spent 20 years cultivating her image as the perfect vice principal. That image was now in pieces just like the champagne bottle. Back in the trauma bay, Dr. Matthews studied the images with increasing concern. Ms. Williams, I need to ask you something. Have you ever had a head injury before? Maybe as a child? My stomach clenched. Why, the CT shows an old fracture in your occipital bone. It healed naturally, but not properly aligned. It's consistent with blunt force trauma from years ago. The memory surfaced like a bubble through oil. 8 years old. Marcus had taken my birthday money when I complained my parents sent me to my room. I'd sat on the stairs crying when someone shoved me from behind. 14 stairs. My head hit the banister twice on the way down. They said I fell while playing, I whispered, but Marcus pushed me for telling on him. Dr. Matthews's expression darkened. The fracture pattern doesn't match an accidental fall. It shows focused impact like being pushed or struck. He paused carefully. As a mandated reporter, I'm required to document this. It establishes a pattern. I was 8. That was 20 years ago. Patterns of abuse don't have expiration dates, and this current injury, he gestured to my head, 12 stitches at minimum. You're lucky the orbital bone wasn't fractured. While he worked numbing the area and carefully stitching the wound, nurses came and went. One brought paperwork, another took photographs for medical records. A third mentioned that police were in the waiting room. There's something else, Dr. Matthews said as he tied off the final stitch. That old fracture. It likely caused your chronic headaches, the ones you probably thought were just stress. He was right. I'd suffered debilitating headaches throughout high school and college. My parents refused to pay for proper medical care, insisting I was being dramatic. Can I get a full copy of these medical records, including the old injury documentation? Already being prepared. My colleague, Dr. Sarah Kim, is our forensic medicine specialist. She'll create a detailed report connecting both injuries. He applied antibiotic ointment and bandages. You were abused, Ms. Williams, then and now. I'm sorry it took this long for someone to document it properly. A knock interrupted us. Detective Patricia Williams entered, the same officer who'd handled Marcus's break-in. Her eyes hardened when she saw my bandages. Quite a party from what I hear. We've got 17 videos from different angles. Your mother's in custody. She is on relief, and something else, maybe grief, washed through me. Assault with a deadly weapon in front of dozens of witnesses, including 3 school board members and 4 of her fellow administrators. Williams pulled out her tablet. Want to see my favorite video? The footage was crystal clear. George Henderson had positioned himself perfectly to capture everything. You could hear my mother screaming about me destroying the family, see her grab the bottle, watch her wind up and swing with full force. The sickening crack when it connected, my collapse, the blood immediately pooling. But what struck me most was my father's expression in the background. Not shock, not horror. Satisfaction. Like this was exactly what he'd wanted. Your father's being questioned now, Williams continued. Several witnesses reported he seemed to orchestrate the whole confrontation. And your brother Marcus violated his bail conditions by attending. He's back in custody. A new voice joined us. Excuse me, I'm Nurse Rachel Thompson. I need to speak with a patient. She was petite with auburn hair and kind eyes. After William stepped out, she moved closer. I went to East High with Marcus, she said quietly. He used to brag about how your parents let him do anything while you got punished for his mistakes. Last month, he was in here for a bar fight. Kept saying his family was going to break you and take what was theirs. Would you be willing to make a statement? Already did. Detective Williams has it. She checked my bandages. He also mentioned owing money to some dangerous people. Said the inheritance was his only way out. Be careful. Dr. Matthews returned with discharge papers and prescriptions. No driving for 24 hours. Watch for signs of concussion. And Ms. Williams, that old fracture shows up in maybe 1% of accidental falls, but it's present in 30% of abuse cases. Your medical records now officially document a pattern of family violence spanning 2 decades. Jessica helped me to the lobby where Morrison waited with a woman in a severe suit. Frankie, this is Catherine Walsh, best criminal attorney in Denver. She's taking your case. Walsh's handshake was firm, her gaze sharp. I've already been to the party house, collected 12 witness statements. Your mother's colleagues are particularly eager to distance themselves from her. Seems she's been a tyrant at work, too. What happens now? Now we bury them, Walsh said simply. Criminal charges for the assault. Civil suits for emotional distress, medical costs, and attempted extortion. And I want to explore that old head injury. No statute of limitations on child abuse if we can prove ongoing harm. My phone buzzed. Amy texting, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. Mom says Aunt Sarah went crazy. Are you okay? I showed Walsh the message. She smiled coldly. Even their own family is abandoning them. Perfect. As we left the hospital, Denver's skyline glowed in the setting sun. My head throbbed with each heartbeat, and exhaustion pulled at me like gravity. But for the first time in my life, I had real allies. Doctors who documented truth. Lawyers who fought back. Friends who showed up. My family had drawn blood, thinking it would break me. Instead, they'd given me everything I needed to destroy them. Catherine Walsh's law office occupied the top floor of a downtown high-rise, all glass and steel, and barely contained power. 3 days after the assault, I sat across from her massive desk while she laid out our battle plan like a general preparing for war. Your mother was arraigned yesterday. She began sliding photos across the desk. Assault with a deadly weapon, aggravated battery. The judge denied bail after seeing the videos. She's being held at Denver Women's Correctional. The mugshot showed Sarah disheveled, her perfect vice principal facade crumbled. The orange jumpsuit made her look smaller, older. I felt nothing. Your father is another matter. Walsh pulled up financial documents on her tablet. My investigator found irregularities going back years. He's been using his position at Grandview National Bank to create fraudulent loans. Not just for your house mortgage, but multiple properties. 3 other mortgages under variations of his name, all claiming the same house as collateral. Total fraud amount $750,000. My head spun, and not from the concussion. He's been stealing that long. Gets worse. Walsh's smile was sharp as a blade. He used his bank access to inflate income statements, create false employment histories, even generated fake tax returns. The FBI's Financial Crimes Division is very interested. She showed me document after document, loans in my father's name, my mother's name, even one using my social security number without my knowledge, all funneling money to Marcus's failed ventures. This is why Marcus was so desperate, I realized. It wasn't just his cryptocurrency loss. Correct. Your brother owes $200,000 to Vincent Torino, a particularly unpleasant individual who runs sports booking and loan sharking. Torino doesn't accept bankruptcy as payment. Morrison knocked and entered. Sorry to interrupt. Frankie, we've had contact from Torino's attorney. He's proposing something unusual. My stomach clenched. What does a mob lawyer want with me? Torino knows Marcus will never pay, but he also knows you have money. He's offering to forgive Marcus's debt if you pay $100,000. Call it a family discount. Absolutely not, Walsh interjected. We don't negotiate with criminals. I'll handle Torino through proper channels. Morrison nodded. I told him the same, but he wanted you warned that Marcus's debt is growing daily, and Torino always collects. After Morrison left, Walsh refocused our strategy. Let's discuss the civil suits, medical expenses, pain, and suffering, emotional distress. The videos make liability clear. We're looking at mid-six figures from your parents' homeowner's insurance alone. They have insurance. Had. The company already sent a reservation of rights letter. They'll pay out to you, then drop your parents. No insurer wants clients who assault family members on camera. My phone buzzed. Derek Coleman, my security consultant, was downstairs. Walsh had him brought up. We've got a problem, he announced. Someone tried to access your condo building this morning, claimed to be a city inspector, but my guy recognized him, works for Torino. Fear sliced through me. They're coming after me for Marcus's debt. Information gathering, most likely. Torino's careful. He won't move against you directly, but he's mapping your routines. I'm recommending 24-hour protection until this resolves. Walsh made notes. I'll get a restraining order against Torino's organization. Judge Martinez owes me a favor. There's more, Derek continued. Your Aunt Patricia left 3 voicemails at your building. Says she has information about your parents that you need to hear. Patricia, who'd helped lure me to the party. My trust was gone, but curiosity remained. Set up a meeting, Walsh decided. Neutral location. I'll accompany you. If she's turning on your parents, we want that information. We spent the next 2 hours reviewing evidence. 43 videos of the assault from different angles. Each one showed Sarah's rage, Robert's orchestration, Marcus's glee. Social media had exploded with the footage. Champagne assault was trending locally. Yeah, your mother's career is finished, Walsh noted with satisfaction. Wellington Academy's board held an emergency meeting. Termination effective immediately. Loss of pension benefits everything. She worked there 15 years. And in one moment of violence, she destroyed it all. Walsh pulled up another document. Your father's situation is equally dire. Grandview National suspended him pending FBI investigation. They're also conducting internal audits going back a decade. When will he be arrested? Soon. The FBI moves methodically, but inevitably, they're building an airtight case. Multiple counts of bank fraud, wire fraud, identity theft. He's looking at 20 years minimum. A knock interrupted us. Walsh's assistant entered with a sealed envelope. This just arrived by courier, marked urgent. Inside was a handwritten note on prison stationery. My mother's perfect penmanship now shaky. Frankie, I'm sorry it came to this, but you forced our hand. A daughter who truly loved her family would have shared, would have helped. Now look what you've caused. Your father facing prison. Marcus in danger. Me in this horrible place. I hope you're satisfied. You've destroyed us all. Mother. No acknowledgement of her violence. No real apology. Just more blame. Walsh read it and smiled. Perfect. She admits premeditation with it came to this. Keep every communication. Their inability to accept responsibility only strengthens our case. We strategized for another hour. Criminal proceedings against Sarah. FBI cooperation against Robert. Civil suits against both. Protection orders against Torino's crew. Each move carefully planned to dismantle their lives as thoroughly as they'd tried to destroy mine. As I prepared to leave, Walsh stopped me. Frankie, I need you to understand something. Your parents aren't just facing legal consequences. They're facing social annihilation. Their reputations, careers, freedom, all gone. Are you prepared for that? I thought of 8-year-old me tumbling downstairs with a fractured skull, of working 3 jobs while Marcus partied through college, of blood running down my face at his birthday party. They prepared me for it, I said. Every beating, every betrayal, every stolen opportunity. They taught me that family meant nothing. Now they get to learn what that really means. Walsh's smile was approving. Then let's teach them properly. The Starbucks on 17th Street bustled with afternoon traffic, providing perfect cover for my meeting with Aunt Patricia. Catherine Walsh sat beside me, recording device visible on the table. Patricia arrived 10 minutes late, looking haggard. "Thank you for seeing me," she began, clutching a manila folder. "I know, after the party. After you lured me into an ambush where I was assaulted, I kept my voice level. Yes, let's discuss that." Patricia flinched. "I didn't know Sarah would... I thought she just wanted to pressure you. Not..." She gestured at my visible stitches. "What do you want, Patricia?" She pushed the folder across the table with trembling hands. "I've been recording family conversations for 5 years, ever since Robert tried to convince my late husband to invest in Marcus's restaurant." Walsh opened the folder, eyebrows rising. Multiple USB drives labeled with dates, printed transcripts, photos of documents. "Why?" I asked. "Because I recognize the pattern. My husband Dale grew up with a narcissistic father who played favorites. He saw it happening in our family, started documenting everything before his cancer diagnosis." Patricia's eyes filled with tears. His dying wish was that I protect Amy from becoming either a golden child or a scapegoat. Walsh plugged one USB into her laptop headphones in place. Her expression shifted from skeptical to shocked as she listened. "This is..." She pulled out the headphones. "Frankie, your parents discussed suing for Eleanor's estate before she even died. They knew she was leaving everything to you." "What?" Patricia nodded miserably. "Robert found out through his bank connections. Eleanor moved large sums 3 months before her death. He and Sarah started planning immediately, including..." She swallowed hard. "Including hurting you if necessary." The recordings were damning. Sarah's voice crystalline clear. "If Frankie won't share willingly, we'll make her desperate enough to beg us for help." Robert's response: "Marcus could arrange something, make her unsafe in that condo, break-ins, threats. Eventually she'll run home to mommy and daddy." Then Marcus himself: "Just give me the word. I know people who can make her life hell." "When was this recorded?" Walsh demanded. 2 weeks before Eleanor's funeral." Patricia pulled out another drive. "There's more. Robert admitting to stealing from elderly bank customers, using their dormant accounts to fund Marcus's schemes. He called them victimless withdrawals." My coffee turned to acid in my stomach. "How many victims?" "At least 12 that he mentioned, all elderly, some with dementia. Small amounts from each, but it added up to hundreds of thousands over the years." Walsh was already texting her investigator. "This changes everything. Federal elder abuse charges. RICO potentially if we can prove ongoing criminal enterprise." "There's one more thing," Patricia said quietly. She pulled out an old photo. "This is from Frankie's 8th birthday, the day she fell down the stairs." The photo showed the family at my birthday dinner. I sat alone at one end of the table while everyone clustered around Marcus at the other. But in the background, barely visible, was the staircase, and at the top, a shadow that looked like someone waiting. Dale enhanced it. Patricia produced a clearer version. Marcus stood at the top of the stairs, hands positioned to push. He was testing early digital photography techniques, caught this by accident. 20 years later, evidence of that first violence. My hand went unconsciously to the old fracture site. "Why didn't you say something then?" My voice came out strangled. "Sarah threatened to have Dale fired. He'd just started chemotherapy. We needed the insurance." Tears ran down Patricia's face. "I'm so sorry, Frankie. We were cowards." Walsh gathered the evidence carefully. "This establishes pattern behavior spanning decades. Premeditation for the recent assault, elder financial abuse, conspiracy to commit fraud. Your parents and brother are looking at life in prison. What about Amy? I asked Patricia. Is she safe? She's staying with my sister in Colorado Springs. She won't speak to Sarah or Robert. The party traumatized her. Seeing her aunt bloodied. Patricia shuddered. She keeps asking if you're okay. She can write me, but not visit. Not yet. Patricia nodded, understanding. I'm testifying. Whatever you need. Dale would have wanted. He always said you were the strong one, the only honest person in a family of thieves. After she left, Walsh and I sat in stunned silence. 5 years of recordings, evidence of crimes I'd never imagined. This is a federal case now, Walsh said finally. Elder abuse, bank fraud, conspiracy. The U.S. attorney will want everything. Your parents won't see daylight for decades. My phone rang. Derek Coleman. Frankie, where are you? Downtown with my attorney. Why? Marcus was released an hour ago. Some administrative error. My contact at the jail says he was processed out before anyone could stop it. Fear spiked through me. How does that happen? Money. Someone paid the right people. He's in the wind, and Torino's crew was seen near the jail. Either they grabbed him for payment or they're working together, Walsh finished grimly. We need to get you somewhere safe. Now. As we rushed to Walsh's car, I spotted a familiar figure across the street. Marcus watching from a coffee shop window. He raised his cup in a mocking toast, his smile promising retribution. The war wasn't over. If anything, it was about to get much worse. Monday morning dawned crisp and clear, the kind of perfect Denver day that made the mountains look close enough to touch. Sarah had no idea it would be her last morning of freedom as she prepared for another day at Wellington Preparatory Academy, desperately pretending everything was normal despite her weekend in jail. I watched the footage later provided by Diana Chen, the investigative reporter who'd been following our story since the assault went viral. Sarah had convinced the school board to let her return pending trial, claiming the videos were misleading and that she was the real victim of family manipulation. At 7:45, Sarah stood before the morning assembly, 300 students and 50 faculty members present. She wore her power suit, the navy one that made her look like education incarnate. Her voice rang with its usual authority as she discussed upcoming standardized tests. Then the doors burst open. 6 FBI agents entered in tactical gear, followed by Detective Williams and 2 uniformed officers. The student body gasped, collectively, phones appearing like magic to record history. Sarah Williams, the lead agent, announced, his voice carrying across the gymnasium. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud assault with a deadly weapon and criminal conspiracy. You have the right to remain silent. Sarah's carefully constructed mask shattered. This is harassment. I'm educating children. How dare you interrupt? They cuffed her mid-sentence. Students whispered and pointed as the vice principal who terrorized them for years was perp-walked past their bleachers. Several teachers failed to hide their satisfaction. This is because of my ungrateful daughter, Sarah shrieked as they led her out. She's destroying our family. Someone needs to stop her. Principal Michael Harrison stepped to the microphone, visibly shaken. Students, please remain calm. Classes are postponed while we process this situation. But the damage was done. Within an hour, videos flooded social media. Vice Principal Perp began trending. Parents demanded explanations. The school board called an emergency meeting that lasted exactly 12 minutes before voting unanimously to terminate Sarah Williams effective immediately. Diana Chen covered it brilliantly on the evening news. Wellington, preparatory known for its zero-tolerance policy on violence, discovered their vice principal had assaulted her own daughter. Sources confirmed the board also revoked her pension valued at $380,000, citing moral turpitude clauses in her contract. The report included interviews with Sarah's former colleagues. She ruled through fear, one teacher admitted anonymously. Always talking about family values while destroying her own family. We're relieved she's gone. Meanwhile, across town at Grandview National Bank, Robert faced his own reckoning. I had Catherine Walsh's investigator stationed outside documenting everything for our civil case. Robert arrived at 9 sharp, unaware the FBI had spent the night examining his computer files. He'd barely settled at his executive desk when federal agents swarmed the building. "Nobody move," the lead agent commanded. "This is a federal warrant execution." They arrested Robert in the marble lobby he'd walked through proudly for 15 years. His colleagues watched in shock as agents listed his crimes loud enough for everyone to hear: wire fraud, bank fraud, identity theft, elder abuse, embezzlement. Those accounts were dormant, Robert protested as they cuffed him. The customers weren't using the money. "So you stole it?" Detective Williams asked dryly. "That's called confession, Mr. Williams." The bank's CEO, Margaret Stone, personally escorted the media through the building afterward. Grandview National has zero tolerance for employee malfeasance. We're cooperating fully with federal authorities and conducting comprehensive audits to identify all victims. By noon, both my parents' careers were ash, but the revelations kept coming. Diana Chen's afternoon broadcast featured an exclusive 3 elderly victims of Robert's embezzlement scheme. Dorothy Patterson, 91, wept on camera as she described discovering her savings decimated. "I trusted that bank for 60 years, she said. "Mr. Williams helped set up my accounts when my husband died. He seemed so caring, but he stole $47,000, my emergency fund, my funeral expenses, gone to fund his son's gambling." The other victims shared similar stories. Robert had targeted widows and seniors with dormant accounts, stealing amounts small enough to avoid automatic flags, but devastating to people on fixed incomes. Total theft over $400,000 across 7 years. Martha, Sarah's own sister, appeared in the evening segment. She sat in Diana's studio, tissue in hand, finally breaking her silence. "Sarah tried the same thing with our mother's estate," Martha revealed. "When Mom died 10 years ago, Sarah produced documents saying Mom wanted everything split between her and Marcus. Completely excluded me and Frankie. I had to hire lawyers to prove the documents were forged." "Did you press charges?" Diana asked. "I wanted to, but Sarah threatened to destroy my husband's construction business. Said she had connections who could bury us in violations." Martha looked directly at the camera. "I kept quiet to protect my family, but watching her attack Frankie, I can't stay silent anymore." Marcus's situation made the 11 o'clock news. Despite mysteriously walking out of jail that morning by evening, he was back in custody, found beaten severely behind a warehouse in Commerce City. The victim sustained multiple fractures and internal injuries, the reporter announced over footage of the crime scene. "Sources indicate this may be connected to outstanding gambling debts." Vincent Torino, alleged organized crime figure, was brought in for questioning, but released without charges. Catherine Walsh called me after watching the coverage. "Your brother's beating wasn't random. Word is he tried to negotiate with Torino using your name. Suggested Torino could extract money from you if Marcus helped. Torino doesn't appreciate freelancers." "Is Marcus going to survive?" "He's stable. Broken ribs, fractured orbital bone, ruptured spleen. He'll heal, but Torino made his point. Nobody uses his name without permission." The next morning brought fresh revelations. The FBI had cracked Robert's hidden files, discovering a spreadsheet tracking his thefts. But one tab made investigators gasp: family assets, post-inheritance. Robert had detailed plans for my inheritance, written 3 months before Eleanor died. Renovations for their house using my money, new cars for him and Sarah, funding for Marcus's next big venture, even a vacation home in Aspen. He'd spent my inheritance before I even received it. Diana Chen obtained a copy and displayed it on screen. This proves premeditation. The Williams family didn't just want Frankie's inheritance. They'd already allocated every penny, treating her grandmother's money as their personal fund. Public opinion turned savage. Sarah's former students created an Instagram page called Survived VP Williams, sharing stories of her cruelty. Robert's bank customers demanded full investigations of their accounts. Marcus's ex-girlfriends emerged with tales of abuse and manipulation. One ex, Stephanie Torres, was particularly damning. Marcus drugged me at a party once. When I woke up, my credit cards were maxed out on his cryptocurrency scheme. His parents helped him convince me I'd agreed to invest while drunk. I lost $30,000 and spent 2 years thinking I was crazy. By week's end, the Williams family name was synonymous with greed, violence, and betrayal in Denver. Sarah and Robert remained jailed without bail, their assets frozen by federal order. Marcus lay in the secure hospital ward facing new charges for his attempt to conspire with organized crime. But the most satisfying moment came when Wellington Preparatory announced Sarah's replacement, Dr. Carmen Rodriguez, known for her compassionate leadership and dedication to stopping bullying. "We're implementing new policies," Dr. Rodriguez announced at her first assembly, including mandatory reporting of any suspected abuse, whether at school or home. "What happened with Ms. Williams will never happen again under my watch." The students applauded genuinely for the first time in years. Sarah's reign of terror was over, replaced by someone who understood that power should protect, not punish. Catherine Walsh called an emergency meeting 3 weeks after my parents' arrests. Her usually confident demeanor carried an edge of excitement that made me nervous as I entered her conference room. "We've discovered something extraordinary about your parents' property." She began spreading documents across the table. My real estate investigator went deep into county records and environmental reports. She pointed to an environmental assessment from 15 years ago. "Your childhood home sits on former industrial land. Braxton Chemical operated there from 1920 to 1960. The soil is contaminated with benzene and heavy metals. They built a house on poisoned land. The contamination was supposedly remediated in 1980, but new EPA standards mean it needs another $200,000 in cleanup to be legally habitable." Walsh smiled grimly. "Your parents never knew. The seller hid it, and they didn't do proper inspections." "So the house is worthless?" "As a residence, worth maybe $200,000, less than half what they owe in fraudulent mortgages. But," she pulled out a zoning map, "5 years ago, the city quietly rezoned that entire area for commercial development. The land alone is worth $1.2 million to developers." My jaw dropped. "They're sitting on a gold mine and don't know it." "Correct. The city never notified homeowners directly. You had to check public records. Your parents were too busy stealing to notice their biggest asset." Walsh pulled out another document. "Here's where it gets interesting. As victims of fraud with documented damages, you can file for compensatory seizure of assets before the federal cases conclude. Essentially claim the property as restitution for assault, defamation, and emotional distress." "Can we do that while they're still fighting criminal charges?" "The assault is on video. The medical bills are documented. The therapy costs, security expenses, lost wages from stress. It's all quantifiable damage." She slid a prepared filing across the table. "Conservative estimate puts your damages at $800,000. The property's commercial value covers that and more." I studied the paperwork. Legal terminology, dancing around a simple concept, taking my childhood home and turning profit from pain. "There's a complication," Walsh continued. "Vincent Torino filed a lien against the property for Marcus's debt. He's claiming rights as a creditor." "Can he do that?" "He's trying. But gambling debts aren't legally enforceable. My colleague who handles organized crime cases says Torino's testing boundaries. He wants to see if you'll pay to make him go away." Derek Coleman knocked and entered. "Speaking of Torino, his lawyer just delivered this." The letter was professionally threatening. Torino's attorney argued that Marcus had pledged family assets as collateral, making the debt secured. They demanded either payment or property transfer within 30 days. Garbage, Walsh declared. Marcus can't pledge assets he doesn't own. We'll respond accordingly. What about my parents? Won't they fight the seizure? Walsh's smile turned predatory. From federal prison, with frozen assets and public defenders, they can try, but judges don't favor violent felons claiming victimhood. She pulled up photos on her laptop. I had the property professionally assessed yesterday. The house needs major work regardless of commercial development. The foundation has cracks from soil settling. The roof needs replacement. Your old bedroom? She paused at one image. Still has your blood on the walls from age 8. The photo showed faint brown stains on yellowed wallpaper, evidence of that first violence painted over but never erased. My hand moved involuntarily to the old fracture. Eleanor knew, I said quietly. She must have seen it during visits. Your grandmother was documenting everything. Morrison's voice came from the doorway as he joined our meeting. I found more in her papers. Photos of injuries, dates of incidents, even receipts for medical care she paid for without your parents knowing. He handed me an envelope, inside photos spanning years. My bruised arms at 10. A black eye at 14, expertly covered with makeup, the scar on my palm from when Marcus accidentally slammed my hand in a door. She built a case, Morrison continued. If she'd lived longer, I think she planned to confront them. The inheritance was her way of giving you justice from beyond. We spent 2 hours strategizing. File for property seizure immediately, counter Torino's bogus claims, use the commercial value to fund a women's shelter, transform the site of abuse into sanctuary. I want to review the original house plans, I said suddenly, from when it was built. Walsh looked puzzled but made a note. Any particular reason? Just a feeling. Eleanor taught me to always understand the foundation before building something new. 3 days later, the plans arrived. The house had been constructed in 1985 by Hawthorne Developments. Standard suburban design except for one detail, a basement room marked storage, that didn't match the actual layout. Could be nothing, the investigator said. Old plans sometimes have errors. But Eleanor's voice whispered in my memory. Your parents keep secrets in dark places, sweet girl. Someday you'll need to bring them to light. Walsh filed the seizure paperwork that afternoon. Within hours, Sarah called from jail, her one phone call wasted on screaming threats my lawyer recorded for evidence. Robert's lawyer sent a formal objection calling me an ungrateful daughter stealing her parents' legacy. Their legacy is crime and violence, Walsh responded in court. My client seeks only compensation for documented damages. The hearing was set for 2 weeks out. Judge Catherine Morrison, no relation to Bradley, presiding, known for her stance against domestic violence and financial crime. That evening, Amy sent a letter through Patricia, careful teenage handwriting on butterfly stationery. Dear Frankie, I'm sorry about everything. Mom showed me the videos from the party. I can't believe Aunt Sarah hurt you like that. I used to think our family was normal. Now I realize you were the only one who saw the truth. I'm seeing a therapist now. She says it's okay to love family members while hating their actions. I hope someday you can forgive me for the phone call. I didn't know it was a trap. Love, Amy. I wrote back carefully. Dear Amy, there's nothing to forgive. You were manipulated by adults who should have protected you. I'm glad you're in therapy. Learning to see toxic patterns young will save you years of pain. Focus on healing and school. The adults will handle the adult problems. Love, Frankie. The next morning brought fresh drama. Marcus recovered enough to cause trouble, gave a jailhouse interview to a bottom-feeder blog. He claimed I'd orchestrated everything, that our parents were innocent victims of a jealous daughter's revenge. Diana Chen fact-checked it brilliantly. Marcus Williams, currently facing charges for breaking and entering drug possession and attempted conspiracy with organized crime, wants us to believe his sister, masterminded a family crisis. The same sister he's on video laughing at while she bled from a head wound. Our viewers can judge his credibility themselves. She played the party footage again, Marcus's laughing face as I bled. His words, "Should have signed when you had the chance, sis." Public opinion stayed firmly in my favor, but I knew Marcus wouldn't stop. None of them would. They'd lost everything and blamed me for consequences they created. The war was entering its final phase. Soon I'd own the battlefield where my childhood died. And I already knew exactly what to build in its place. The federal courthouse in downtown Denver buzzed with media attention as Sarah's assault trial began 6 weeks after the party. Diana Chen held court on the steps, her cameraman capturing the circus of public opinion. Protesters waved signs reading "Justice for Frankie," while a small contingent of Sarah's former church friends held "Forgive Family First" banners. Inside courtroom 12, I sat behind the prosecutor's table with Catherine Walsh and Bradley Morrison flanking me. Across the aisle, Sarah huddled with her public defender orange jumpsuit, replacing designer suits. Her carefully styled hair had grown gray at the roots, and without her armor of makeup, she looked every one of her 52 years. Robert watched from the defendant's table in his own federal case, being heard simultaneously next door. The court had coordinated schedules so both trials could share witnesses. He wore a borrowed suit that hung loose on his frame federal detention, having stripped 20 pounds of comfortable living from his body. "All rise," the bailiff commanded. "The Honorable Judge Catherine Morrison presiding." Judge Morrison, a silver-haired woman with piercing eyes, had a reputation for seeing through manipulation. As she reviewed the charges, Sarah's hands trembled against the defense table. The prosecutor, Assistant District Attorney James Chen, opened with devastating simplicity. "Ladies and gentlemen, this case isn't complicated. You'll see 17 different videos of the defendant attacking her daughter with a champagne bottle. You'll hear from medical experts about the injuries inflicted. And you'll understand this wasn't a momentary lapse, but the culmination of years of abuse." He played the clearest video first. George Henderson's footage showed everything in high definition. Sarah grabbing the bottle, the wind-up, the strike. My blood splattering across party guests. The sound of the bottle shattering against my skull echoed through the silent courtroom. Several jurors flinched. One covered her mouth in horror. Sarah's defender, an overwhelmed public defender named Thomas Pearl, tried valiantly. This was a family dispute that escalated beyond anyone's intentions. Sarah Williams spent 30 years raising her children, dedicating her life to education. One moment of anger shouldn't define her entire existence. But Chen had receipts. He called Dr. Kenneth Matthews, who testified about both injuries, the fresh assault and the decades-old fracture. "The pattern is consistent with systematic abuse," Dr. Matthews stated. "The old injury shows focused impact trauma inconsistent with accidental falls. The recent injury required 12 stitches and caused a grade 2 concussion, an inch lower, and it could have damaged the optical nerve, causing permanent blindness." The enhanced photo appeared on screen. 8-year-old me at the bottom of the stairs, blood pooling beneath my small head. Then the recent photo's blood-soaked, hair-swollen face stitches creating a Frankenstein line across my scalp. "Two attacks 20 years apart," Chen summarized. "Same victim, same family, same violence." Sarah's former colleagues testified next. Principal Harrison admitted Sarah ruled through fear. Students, teachers, even parents dreaded her anger. "When I saw the video, I wasn't shocked, just grateful it wasn't one of our students." Then came the surprise witness. Marcus, wheeled in from the jail medical ward, took the stand. The courtroom stirred. He wasn't listed as a prosecution witness. Sarah's eyes widened with desperate hope. "State your name for the record," Chen instructed. "Marcus Williams." His voice was different, quieter. The beating from Torino's men had humbled him in ways family never could. "Mr. Williams, you're testifying under a cooperation agreement. Please explain your relationship to the defendant. Marcus stared at his hands. She's my mother, and I'm her weapon. Sarah's gasp cut through the courtroom. Elaborate, please, Chen prompted. Since childhood, she used me to hurt Frankie, made me believe I deserved everything and she deserved punishment. When I pushed Frankie down the stairs at 8, Mom covered it up, said Frankie was clumsy jealous, trying to get attention. You pushed your sister. Mom told me Frankie had taken my birthday money. She hadn't, but I believed it. Mom always made me believe Frankie was the enemy. Tears rolled down Marcus's face. I spent 30 years as their enforcer, their golden child who could do no wrong, but it was all manipulation. What changed your perspective? Marcus looked directly at Sarah. Torino's men. When they broke my ribs, shattered my eye socket, I kept thinking they'd stop, that someone would save me. No one did, and I realized that's how Frankie felt every day in our house, waiting for someone to save her from us. Sarah shot to her feet. You lying little bastard, after everything I did for you. Judge Morrison's gavel cracked like thunder. The defendant will control herself or be removed. Marcus continued, voice stronger. The cryptocurrency scheme, Mom's idea. She said Frankie's inheritance belonged to the family, and we'd get it one way or another. The forged documents, Dad created them, but Mom dictated what to write. The party completely orchestrated. Mom knew she'd lose control. She wanted to hurt Frankie badly enough that she'd sign anything to make it stop. How do you know this? Because she told me. The night before, she said, if that ungrateful brat won't share willingly, I'll break her publicly. Sometimes children need reminders of who's in charge. The jury looked horrified. Several stared at Sarah with open disgust. Chen introduced Patricia's recordings next. Sarah's voice filled the courtroom. If Frankie won't share willingly, we'll make her desperate enough to beg us for help. Then Roberts, Marcus could arrange something, make her unsafe in that condo. And Marcus again, just give me the word. I know people who can make her life hell. Pearl tried to cross-examine, but Marcus was done protecting anyone. Did your mother force you to testify? Pearl asked desperately. No, my therapist helped me understand I was also abused, just differently than Frankie. I was a weapon, but still a victim. I'm trying to take responsibility now. I watched my brother, really saw him, for maybe the first time. The golden child shell had cracked, revealing someone just as damaged, just as lost. He'd chosen destruction over healing for 30 years, but finally he was choosing truth. Character witnesses for Sarah fell apart. Her church friends admitted they'd never visited the family home. Colleagues confessed they feared her temper. Even her own sister Martha testified about the forged inheritance documents from their mother's estate. When Sarah took the stand in her own defense, Chen destroyed her methodically. You claim this was a momentary lapse. He played the video again. You retrieved a champagne bottle, walked 8 feet, raised it above your head, and struck with full force. How many moments is that? I was provoked. By your daughter refusing to give you her inheritance. It belonged to the family, according to whom Eleanor Morrison's will explicitly left everything to Frankie. What made you believe you deserved it? Sarah's mask finally shattered completely. Because I'm her mother. I gave her life. I raised her. That ungrateful bitch owed us everything. Marcus deserved that money, not her. The courtroom went silent. Even Pearl winced at the admission. Chen smiled coldly. No further questions. During closing arguments, Chen connected 20 years of abuse to one moment of violence. Pearl argued for mercy, but his heart wasn't in it. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. As they filed back in, Sarah grabbed Pearl's arm hard enough to leave marks. Guilty of assault with a deadly weapon, guilty of conspiracy to commit fraud, guilty of criminal intimidation. Sarah screamed, not words, just pure rage. The bailiffs moved to restrain her as she lunged toward me. You destroyed us, you poisonous little bitch. I should have finished the job. Judge Morrison's voice cut through the chaos. That outburst just added 6 months to whatever sentence I was considering. Remove the defendant. As they dragged Sarah away, she locked eyes with Marcus. Traitor, she spat. You're dead to me. Marcus nodded slowly. I know, Mom. I've been dead to myself for years. Finally ready to live. In the hallway afterward, Marcus approached cautiously. Catherine Walsh stepped between us, but I waved her back. I'm sorry, he said simply, for everything. The stairs, the stealing the party, for 30 years of being their weapon against you. I know, I replied, but sorry doesn't erase scars. No, but maybe it can stop me from creating new ones. He handed me an envelope. That's information about where Dad hid cash, offshore accounts, safety deposit boxes, evidence for your case. I'm done protecting them. He wheeled away before I could respond. My brother, the golden child, finally tarnished enough to see truth. That evening, the news covered the verdict extensively. Diana Chen interviewed jurors who described being horrified by the calculated cruelty and generational abuse. But the day's final revelation came from Robert's trial. Facing life in prison, he'd made a deal. Full confession in exchange for 20 years instead of 40. His allocution was breathtaking in its scope. 14 years of embezzlement, 23 elderly victims, 480,000 stolen to fund Marcus's failures. He'd even stolen from his own mother before she died, draining accounts meant for her medical care. Why? The federal prosecutor asked. Robert's answer chilled everyone who heard it. Because I could. Because Marcus needed it. Because Frankie didn't deserve anything. She was supposed to be grateful we even kept her. The mask had fallen from the entire family. In trying to destroy me, they'd revealed themselves as the monsters Eleanor always knew they were. 2 weeks after the verdicts, I stood in Judge Morrison's courtroom for the property seizure hearing. The contrast from the criminal trials was stark. Civil court felt almost peaceful after the emotional violence of criminal proceedings. Catherine Walsh had prepared meticulously. Bankers' boxes of evidence lined our table: medical bills, therapy receipts, security expenses, lost wages, documentation. Every penny of damage my family had inflicted, quantified and categorized. Your Honor, Walsh began, we're seeking compensatory seizure of the Williams property at 4215 Maple Avenue. My client's documented damages exceed $800,000, while the contaminated property's residential value is under $200,000. However, its commercial development value of $1.2 million makes it suitable compensation. The federal prosecutor had sent a representative to support our claim. The government agrees Ms. Williams deserves priority consideration as a direct victim. The defendants used this property as a base of operations for their crimes against her. Vincent Torino's attorney surprisingly withdrew their lien claim that morning. Apparently, Torino had decided Marcus's beating was a payment enough and wanted no further involvement with our family drama. Only one voice opposed us, a harried public defender representing my parents' interests while they served their sentences. This is excessive punishment, he argued weakly. Taking their home while they're incarcerated leaves them with nothing upon release. Judge Morrison's expression could have frozen hell. Counselor, your client systematically abused their daughter for decades, attempted to steal her inheritance, and committed assault with a deadly weapon. They're fortunate the only thing being taken is property, not additional years of freedom. The judge reviewed our evidence methodically. Medical reports spanning 20 years, police reports, trial transcripts, the videos of the assault, financial documentation of the inheritance theft attempts. I find the plaintiff's damages well documented and directly caused by defendants' actions. Judge Morrison ruled. The court grants compensatory seizure of the property. But we weren't done. Walsh approached with a manila folder. Your Honor, during property inspection, we discovered something requiring immediate attention. She produced photographs of a hidden basement room concealed behind what appeared to be a storage shelf. Inside, investigators had found disturbing contents, hundreds of photos of me throughout childhood, many taken without my knowledge. Detailed journals in Sarah's handwriting documenting every perceived slight, every moment I'd disappointed them. Plans dating back years for ways to correct my behavior. This obsessive documentation suggests planning that goes beyond normal parental discipline, Walsh stated. It's evidence of long-term psychological abuse. One photo showed me at 12 asleep in my bed. Sarah had written on the back, "So peaceful when unconscious, if only she were this compliant awake." My skin crawled. They'd been in my room while I slept, documenting their resentment. Judge Morrison's disgust was obvious. "This court has seen enough. Property transferred to Frankie Williams immediately. Furthermore, I'm recommending additional investigation into these materials for potential federal charges." After the ruling, we visited the property with contractors. Walking through my childhood home felt like archaeology, excavating pain from every room. The stairs where I'd fallen, the dining room where I ate in isolation, my bedroom with its hidden bloodstains. Tear it down, I decided. All of it. Walsh had already lined up developers interested in the commercial potential, but I had different plans. "I want to honor Eleanor's vision," I explained, pulling out the architectural drawings Morrison had found. She wanted this to become a women's shelter, a place where pain lived, let healing grow. The contractors estimated 6 months for demolition and new construction. The soil remediation alone would take 2 months. But when finished, Eleanor's Haven would house 20 women escaping domestic violence. That evening, I met with Dr. Carmen Rodriguez from Wellington Academy. She'd agreed to serve on the shelter's board. "Your story has inspired so many," she said over coffee. "3 students have come forward about abuse at home since the trial. Your courage in facing your family publicly gave them permission to seek help." We discussed programs for the shelter, therapy services, job training, legal aid, everything women needed to rebuild after escaping violence. "What about Marcus?" Dr. Rodriguez asked gently. "He seems to be genuinely changing." Marcus had written me several letters from jail. Each one revealed more family secrets, more evidence for federal prosecutors. He'd entered intensive therapy, started attending NA meetings, even testified in Robert's sentencing hearing. "He made choices for 30 years, I said carefully. Bad ones, but maybe redemption is possible from a distance. 2 days later, demolition began. I stood watching as an excavator's claw ripped through the roof of my childhood prison. Each crash of debris felt like chains breaking. Diana Chen covered it live. Behind me, the house where Frankie Williams endured decades of abuse is being destroyed. In its place, she's building Eleanor's Haven, a shelter for women escaping domestic violence. From pain to purpose in the most literal way possible. The basement room yielded more secrets. A safe hidden in the concrete contained Robert's real books, ledgers documenting every theft, every embezzlement, names, dates, amounts. The FBI seized it all, adding years to his sentence. But the most meaningful discovery came from my old bedroom closet. Behind a loose board, investigators found a small metal box. Inside were treasures I'd hidden as a child, a photo of Eleanor and me at my 6th birthday, the only happy memory from that year. A pressed flower from the garden she'd helped me plant. A note in her elegant handwriting. "My dearest Frankie, you are stronger than you know. Love, Grandma." I'd forgotten hiding these, but my child self had known to protect the only proof of love in that house. As the walls came down, neighbors approached with their own stories. Mrs. Chen from next door apologized for never calling police despite hearing screaming. Mr. Peterson admitted he'd seen bruises, but assumed I was clumsy. "We failed you," Mrs. Chen said, tears streaming. "The whole neighborhood failed you. We chose comfort over conscience." Their guilt wasn't my burden to carry, but their promises to do better, to watch for signs of abuse, to act next time, that mattered. By sunset, the house was rubble. The physical structure that had contained so much pain was gone. Tomorrow, crews would begin removing the contaminated soil, literally cleaning poison from the ground. That night, I stood in my condo watching the city lights. My phone buzzed with a text from Amy. Saw the demolition on the news. Proud of you. Mom says tearing down is the first step to building up. She was right. Tomorrow we'd start building something beautiful where horror once lived. But tonight I simply breathed. Free. Safe. Vindicated. The girl who tumbled down those stairs had survived to tear down the house that tried to break her. Eleanor would be so proud. 6 months after the demolition, Eleanor's haven was nearly complete. The modern building rose from the cleansed earth like a promise, kept its warm brick facade and welcoming windows, a stark contrast to the cold house that once stood there. I walked through with the construction foreman, checking final details before next week's opening. The therapy rooms are soundproofed as requested, he explained, showing me spaces designed for privacy and healing. The communal kitchen can serve 30. Each bedroom has its own lock and security system. My phone buzzed. Marcus calling from the federal facility where he was serving 3 years for the breaking and entering charge. After testifying against our parents, he'd received a reduced sentence. I'd started accepting his calls 2 months ago. Frankie, I have something important to tell you. His voice carried an urgency I hadn't heard before. I've been working with the FBI on a larger investigation. Our uncles, Harold and Timothy, they've been running the same schemes. I stepped outside for privacy. What do you mean? Dad learned it from them. The whole family has this pattern. Golden children who get everything, scapegoats who get abused. Harold's daughter Beth, Timothy's son Alex. They're the scapegoats, being bled dry while their siblings live like kings. My stomach turned. How deep does this go? 3 generations at least. Grandpa Williams did it to Dad and the uncles, made Robert the golden child, while Harold and Timothy fought for scraps. That's why Harold and Timothy recreated the pattern. It's all they knew. And you're just learning this now. Therapy is intense here. Real therapy, not the performance I used to do. Dr. Martinez helped me map the family tree of abuse. Marcus paused. I want to help expose it all, make amends by stopping the cycle. Over the following weeks, Marcus provided detailed information. Harold had embezzled from his own construction company, funneling money to his golden child Wayne while forcing Beth to work unpaid. Timothy ran insurance fraud schemes using Alex's credit without consent while funding his other son David's gambling. We worked with the FBI to build cases. I met Beth and Alex in Catherine Walsh's office, seeing my own story reflected in their exhausted faces. Harold convinced me I owed the family everything, Beth said quietly. I've been paying Wayne's mortgage while living in my car. Alex nodded. Timothy opened 12 credit cards in my name. I'm 34 and bankrupt because of fraud I didn't commit. Together we formed an alliance. The family scapegoats united in truth-telling. Catherine Walsh took their cases pro bono, energized by the pattern's scope. The investigation exploded when Marcus revealed the biggest secret: the uncles had been meeting monthly to coordinate their schemes. He'd attended once before his arrest and recorded the entire conversation. The recording was damning. Harold bragging about hiding construction assets from creditors. Timothy explaining how to forge insurance claims, both of them coaching their golden children on manipulation tactics. The scapegoats are getting uppity, Harold said on the recording. Ever since Frankie got that inheritance, Beth's been asking questions. Or should have handled Frankie like we discussed, Timothy replied. A little accident, family grieves together, problem solved. They discussed killing me. Casually, like removing an inconvenient obstacle. The FBI arrested Harold and Timothy simultaneously, coordinating raids on their homes and businesses. Local news had a field day with the Williams family crime ring story. 3 generations of financial abuse and fraud all unraveling because one scapegoat refused to stay down. Diana Chen interviewed me the day before Eleanor's Haven opened. We sat in the shelter's garden where Eleanor's favorite roses now bloomed. "Oh, this started with you refusing to give up your inheritance," Diana noted. "Now 3 federal cases have spawned from that decision. Any regrets?" "Only that it took so long," I replied. "How many victims suffered because we stayed silent? How many scapegoats thought abuse was love because that's all they knew?" Marcus had evolved into an unexpected ally. From prison, he connected with other golden children raised in toxic systems. He started a newsletter about recognizing manipulation, taking accountability, and breaking cycles. His writing was raw, honest, painfully self-aware. "I was a weapon aimed at my sister," he wrote in one issue. "Every praise I received was ammunition against her. Every success I claimed was stolen from her opportunities. Golden children aren't winners. We're victims who become abusers." The shelter's opening approached with media attention building. Donations poured in as our story went national. A tech billionaire who'd escaped his own abusive family funded a year of operations. A celebrity chef volunteered to train shelter residents in culinary skills. 2 days before opening, Sarah sent a letter from prison. Her handwriting looked shaky, broken. Frankie, I know you hate me, but I need you to understand. I was broken long before you were born. My mother favored Harold while destroying me. I swore I'd never be the scapegoat again, so I made you one instead. I see now that I became the monster I feared. I don't ask forgiveness. Just wanted you to know the pattern started before us." I shared the letter with my therapist, Dr. Patricia Kim. We'd been working through complex feelings as the shelter neared completion. "How does her admission make you feel?" Dr. Kim asked. "Empty," I admitted. "She's acknowledging the pattern but not taking real responsibility. She chose to abuse me. Understanding why doesn't erase the damage." "And Marcus? He's doing the work, real work. But 30 years of pain doesn't disappear because he's sorry. I can appreciate his growth while maintaining boundaries." The night before opening, I walked through Eleanor's Haven alone. 20 bedrooms waited for women seeking safety. The therapy rooms held promise of healing. The kitchen smelled of fresh paint and hope. In what would be the director's office, I hung Eleanor's portrait. Her knowing eyes seemed to approve of what grew from the ashes of abuse. Amy had sent a gift, a handmade quilt with a note for the first resident, made with love and hope for new beginnings. Beth and Alex would attend tomorrow's opening, living proof that patterns could break. They'd started their own legal proceedings against Harold and Timothy, inspired by my success. The ripples spread wide. Sarah's former students created a scholarship for abuse survivors. Robert's victims received full restitution from seized accounts. Marcus's newsletter reached thousands of golden children questioning their privilege. Tomorrow, Eleanor's Haven would officially open. Media would document the transformation. Survivors would find shelter. But tonight, I stood where my childhood bedroom once trapped me, now transformed into a space for healing. The bloodstains were gone. The pain had purpose. The little girl who fell down the stairs had grown into a woman who tore down the house. And from its ashes, she built something beautiful. The morning of Eleanor's Haven's grand opening dawned bright and clear. Media vans lined the street where I'd once fled in Jessica's car, blood running down my face. Now that same street bustled with caterers, volunteers, and supporters preparing for the ribbon cutting. I stood before the mirror in my condo, adjusting the pearl necklace Eleanor had left me. The scar above my eye had faded to a thin silver line, visible if you knew to look, but no longer defining my face. My hands were steady as I applied lipstick. No trembling, no fear, just purpose. "Ready?" Catherine Walsh asked from my doorway. She'd become more than my attorney over these months, a true friend who'd seen me through the darkest period of my life. "Almost," I picked up the speech I'd written and rewritten dozen times. Do you think she would have approved? Eleanor, she would have been bursting with pride. Catherine squeezed my shoulder. You took unimaginable pain and transformed it into something that will save lives. That's her true legacy. The shelter grounds were transformed with white tense chairs for 200 guests and a small stage decorated with Eleanor's favorite roses. As I arrived, the crowd's energy hit me like a wave. Supporters, survivors, media city officials, all gathered to witness pain become purpose. Amy rushed over, now 17 and growing into a thoughtful young woman. Frankie, mom's here, but she wanted me to ask if it's okay first. She has something important to tell you. Patricia stood at the garden's edge, looking healthier than she had during the trials. Therapy had clearly helped her too. I nodded, and she approached carefully. I won't stay long, Patricia said quickly, but I needed you to know I'm divorcing Harold. Found out he's been abusing Beth the same way Robert hurt you. I'm testifying in her case. She pulled out an envelope. This is from Harold's files, evidence of the family trust Robert was supposed to manage. There's another $800,000 that belongs to you. Another secret, another theft, but today wasn't about looking backward. Give it to Beth, I decided. She needs it more than I do. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. That's incredibly generous. It's justice. The scapegoats are done funding the Golden Children. As Patricia left, Diana Chen appeared with her camera crew. Ready for your interview. We'd agreed to a live segment during the ceremony. Diana had become the story's chronicler, her reporting helping expose the wider family crime ring. This time last year, you were working 3 jobs and estranged from your family, Diana began. Now you're opening a shelter on the site of your childhood trauma. How does that feel? Surreal, I admitted. But right. Eleanor taught me that we can't change what happened to us. We can only choose what we build from the rubble. The crowd grew as the ceremony approached. Dr. Rodriguez from Wellington Academy, George Henderson, whose video had captured the assault, Nurse Rachel Thompson from the hospital, even some of Sarah's former students who'd found courage to report their own abuse. Then I saw him. Marcus in a wheelchair accompanied by 2 federal marshals. He'd received special permission to attend, though he'd returned to prison afterward. Our eyes met across the garden. He looked different, older certainly, but also clearer. The arrogance had been replaced by something I'd never seen in my brother before, genuine humility. 5 minutes, one marshal told him. Marcus wheeled himself over. I know I don't deserve to be here, but I needed to see what you built, what I tried to destroy. You're here because you chose to change, I said carefully. That matters. Not enough to erase the past, but it matters. I have 18 months left. When I get out, I want to volunteer here. Maintenance, cleaning, whatever you need. Not for forgiveness, for forward. Before I could respond, the ceremony began. Mayor Patricia Hancock took the stage praising the shelter as a model for transforming trauma into community service. City council members spoke about domestic violence statistics, the desperate need for safe spaces. Then it was my turn. I stood at the podium, looking out at faces both familiar and strange. The speech in my hand suddenly felt inadequate, so I spoke from the heart. Eleanor's haven stands where a house of horror once trapped me and countless family members in cycles of abuse. For 28 years, I thought pain was love, criticism was care, and cruelty was connection. Eleanor Morrison, my grandmother, saw through those lies. She gave me more than inheritance. She gave me freedom to build something better. I found Amy in the crowd, tears streaming down her young face. This shelter is for every woman who's been told she deserves abuse, for every scapegoat who funded their abuser's dreams while sacrificing their own, for everyone who's been shattered and told to be grateful for the attention. The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. To those still trapped, you are not crazy. You are not ungrateful. You are not responsible for your abuser's emotions, finances, or failures. You deserve safety, peace, and the chance to discover who you are without someone's boot on your neck. Applause thundered across the garden. I waited for it to quiet before continuing. Today we open doors that lock from the inside, rooms where women control their own space, a kitchen where meals are shared in peace, not eaten in fear, therapy rooms where truth is honored, not punished. I lifted the giant scissors provided for the ribbon cutting. Eleanor Morrison believed that where pain lived, healing could grow. Today, we prove her right. The ribbon fell away and the crowd erupted. Media surged forward for photos as the first shelter residents, 3 women who'd been in temporary housing, entered their new home. But the day's biggest surprise was yet to come. As the crowd mingled during the reception, a small commotion arose near the entrance. An elderly woman was arguing with security, insisting she belonged here. I approached, then froze. Sarah stood there, but not the Sarah from prison. This woman was older, frailer, broken in ways that went beyond legal consequences. She'd been released that morning on a medical furlough, terminal liver cancer, apparently, 4 months to live. I shouldn't have come, she said, voice barely above a whisper. But I needed to see what you built. Security moved to remove her, but I raised my hand. Let her stay, but not inside, the garden only. Sarah nodded, understanding she had no right to enter the shelter. We stood awkwardly among Eleanor's roses while the celebration continued around us. It's beautiful, she said finally. She would have loved this. She planned it. I just executed her vision. Sarah pulled out a worn envelope. I've been writing this for 6 months. Couldn't send it. Couldn't not bring it. She handed it to me with shaking hands. I don't expect forgiveness. Just wanted you to know I finally understand what I took from you. I tucked the letter away unread. Today wasn't for her revelations. The cancer, she said quietly. The doctors say it's genetic. You should get screened. I already do. Eleanor had it too. Another thing you never told me. Sarah flinched. Another thing I failed at. So many failures. She looked at the shelter. At least something good came from our evil. Something good came despite your evil, I corrected. Because Eleanor loved me. Because I survived you. Because Marcus finally chose truth. Not because of anything you did. She nodded, accepting the harsh reality. I'll go. Just thank you for letting me see it. For showing me what love actually builds. As she shuffled away, supported by a hospice nurse, I felt neither satisfaction nor sadness, just completion. The woman who'd shattered a champagne bottle on my skull was dying, but her victim had already risen. The reception continued with joy and hope. Donors pledged additional funds. Volunteers signed up for shifts. The first residents explored their rooms with wonder, touching sturdy locks and soft bedding like treasures. Marcus was wheeled back to the transport van, but not before leaving a check with Catherine. My newsletter earnings, he explained, every penny goes to the shelter. As sunset painted the sky purple and gold, I stood in Eleanor's garden one last time. The shelter glowed with warm light, voices drifting from windows where women were already making it home. We did it, Grandma, I whispered to the roses. We broke the cycle. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, more women seeking shelter, legal battles continuing against Harold and Timothy, my own ongoing therapy to process a lifetime of trauma. But tonight we celebrated. Eleanor's haven was born from blood and broken glass, rising like a phoenix from ashes of abuse. To everyone watching who's trapped in their own house of horrors, wondering if escape is possible, it is. To those funding their abusers' dreams while being called selfish, you deserve your own life. To every scapegoat carrying family shame that isn't theirs, put it down. And to those who say family is everything that blood requires forgiveness, sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away and build something better. What would you build from your pain? How would you transform your trauma into purpose? Share your stories, comment your truths, like if this resonated. Subscribe to follow Eleanor's Haven's journey, because every share might reach someone who needs to know that broken bottles don't have to be the end of the story. They can be the beginning of something beautiful. Thank you for witnessing our transformation. May you find the courage to build your own havens wherever healing needs to grow. With love and hope, Frankie.